Addictions touch even the best Christian families right here in San Diego. This is Recovery Radio San Diego with Todd Cunningham of Pacific Hills Treatment Center and Recovery Options Network, along with John and Leslie Savage on KPRZ weekdays at 6:30. Stay with us for real-life stories, help from Christian experts, what works and what doesn't work, and local area resources for you and your family. Welcome to Recovery Radio San Diego.
Good evening. You're listening to 1210 AM KPRZ. This is a new radio program about addictions and self-destructive behaviors and God's gift of recovery. Welcome to Recovery Radio. My name is John Savage, and I am a grateful recovering addict. And I am one of 3 members of this new local radio ministry. Recovery Radio is a daily program heard Monday through Friday at this time, and its sole mission is to assist addicts and their families by providing local professional resources to get them the help they need so they can live a healthy and productive life. I believe that man's chief end is to glorify God and enjoy Him forever, and to do that you must surrender from your destructive behaviors, seek forgiveness, and acknowledge what Christ did for you on the cross. And that's where I'm coming from, and that's where my freedom began. Others in this program ministry is my wife, Leslie. Good evening, Leslie. How are you?
I'm good, John. How are you?
I'm doing great. We had a nice weekend, a great day at church yesterday. We have a ministry that we do once a month of feeding. Part of our congregation, we meet every month for a brunch, and it was a great brunch yesterday, a wonderful day. So that was a good time. Also with our program is Todd Cunningham, and Todd is out this week. He had scheduling issues, so he's asked me to step in on his behalf. His role with our program is with Recovery Options, and he works closely with family members and addicts who are seeking to change their life through recovery. And there's lots of different recovery options out there, and one of them is Pacific Hills Treatment Center. He's got an association with that. So it's Todd Cunningham with Recovery Options and Pacific Hills Treatment Center. He is off this week, but he does enjoy working with families, helping them make decisions to improve their lives. My recovery journey began on May 1st, 2007, and that was a little over 3 years ago when I finally surrendered and met God locked up while in a Tijuana jail cell. For 2 years leading up to that day, I'd been abusing prescription medication, which quickly led to more insidious forms of drug abuse. But in the end, I was hopelessly out of control, spending the majority of my time away from my family just to feed my addiction. My turning point was at arrest in Tijuana, and when I completely surrendered and admitted that my life was completely unmanageable, and at that time I was powerless over my behavior, and that's when my freedom began, is when I came to that first step. So over the last 3 years, I have a renewed purpose in my life, and this radio ministry is one of those purposes. And I'm very thankful to be reunited with my family and right here today to talk about recovery. All of us here at Recovery Radio pray for that day for you, and that day is that you finally surrender and turn your life over to the will and care of God and allow Him to show you an inner peace that you never thought was possible. But, sometimes when we come to that first step, we need professional help to get started. And last week, we enjoyed hearing from Richard Perlin. Richard Perlin is with First House, and he shared with us his recovery journey and what he's doing today to help others. We had great feedback from our phone calls and the email, and so we've invited Richard back today to continue talking about how to help with family members. So, Richard, how are you this evening?
Good. I'm really well. It's great to be back here, and I appreciated the opportunity last week to kind of bring the message of recovery to your listeners, and so thank you for having me back.
Well, it's great to have you back, and this week we're going to be focusing on the family a little bit further, but before we do so, I just want to plug, I guess is the right word, this new program that we have for anyone seeking help. We've got scholarship programs, and if you or someone you know is at a point where they want to begin again, and that's in recovery, and get on the road to sobriety, but need financial help, you can call right now to hear about our matching grants that we have made available through our friends up at Pacific Hills Treatment Centers. You can call 949-973-9140. That's 949-973-9140. 9140. We also have programs that are set aside for local churches and the business community. So again, if you're seeking a way to get out of your addiction and you want a fresh start and to begin again with a new walk and a new purpose in life, call right now, 949-973-9140. So we're going to talk this week, Richard, about the focus on the family, because we can always say so much to the addict, but until the addict is at a point in their life when they actually want to do something about their issue, we can only talk until we're blue in the face. At least that's the way it was for me. I mean, I heard so many times people telling me that I needed to change, you need to do this, but I just wasn't ready until I was ready. So we need to move forward and get the families healthy at the same time. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So, Richard, in with that, well, let's first talk about your journey and what you're doing today.
Well, I appeared here last week as a representative of First House Detox, and so I've got many recovery-related interests that extend into detox, but and beyond. But my real passion is in the intervention process and helping a family to kind of gain perspective under the heading of where do we go from here. You know, I always tell families, it's not what the addict's going to do, it's what you're going to do. And I think that that's really the dividing line between a family that's caught up in the problem as opposed to a family that's embracing the solution. That all of the power rests in the people around the addict, that to kind of step back, shake their head a little bit, and bring some clear thought to the process. And that's what I try to do. In my journey, my personal journey in recovery as a 27-year drug abuser, ultimately a heroin addict, I lament the fact that there was not enough information back in the day. Recovery's come so far in terms of being able to provide opportunity to people that have a problem. You know, treatment was more of a mystery when I was a younger man caught up in the disease, and now there's so many more options. There's so much good knowledge out there for a family to embrace in terms of answering the question, where do we go from here?
And so I guess that would be our first question. Let me just ask you the obvious question. And when we're talking about the family members of someone watching their loved one, just kind of just fade away into the addiction, where does the family start when they decide that they need to get help?
Well, I think that's just a great question. And, there's a lot of different answers to that. But I think to step back from the problem is absolutely essential. By the time an addict is really identified within a family structure, if we're honest about it, we can see how that addict's behavior impacts the entire family structure negatively. And so, it's very important for a family to pick up the phone and reach out and talk to people that have experience with dealing with addiction, and more importantly, to kind of clear their heads about how they got to that point, start concentrating on where we go from here. In order to do that, there's just such a plethora of good information out there. There's wonderful books available. There's 12-step programs. There's this radio show. There's all sorts of opportunity for families to really look in a different direction. The operative word being a different direction. We can't continue to approach addiction the same way and expect a different result.
So then I guess that leads to, how does someone know if they're getting the right suggestions when they're out reaching and looking and seeking information?
Well, it's often tell families, trust gut instinct. If you do your homework in this regard, let's face it, there's a lot on the line. This is a family member that's in a lot of trouble, and I really encourage families to reach out, to kind of weigh different options, to see what is out there in terms of information. Obviously, you want to feel comfortable with the people you're working with. You want the plan that develops for your family member has to make sense to you. And the only way that you're really going to be able to analyze that correctly is to reach out, step past the stigma of addiction, start embracing different lines of thought in a meaningful sense, and trying different things. Every family falls victim to this cyclical nature of the disease of addiction, and I think it's most apparent where we continue to reach out to the addict and say, hey, look, just try harder. just try harder, just try harder. And of course, the weeks, months, and literally years pass us by, and we without moving forward. So I think the real operative technique here is to reach out. I guess what I want to say to everybody out there, when I work with a family on a one-on-one basis, what I teach them to say is to the addict or the alcoholic is, that's a great idea. Ask Richard, and Richard will let us know if we can do that. There's a lot of Richard Perlins out there that are standing by waiting to help your family, but we really have to make an effort to reach past our knowledge base.
So your business then, I mean, last week we talked about First House. So then people can call you, and you will then structure a plan for them to get healthy and at least to move forward to try to get themselves healthy.
Well, right. People are always welcome to call me and talk about their particular situation. A lot of times people are reluctant to make that first call. We mentioned kind of the stigma of addiction a moment ago. Until families can talk openly and honestly about the problems that are confronting them, there's very little chance that anybody's going to get better.
Okay. You're listening to 1210 AM KPRZ. This is Recovery Radio, heard evenings at 6:30. And I just wanted to let you know, if you're looking for help and you want to hear more about what Richard's talking about, you can call Recovery Options right now. The telephone number up there is 949-973-9140. That's 949-973-9140. Recovery Options is located just a little bit minutes north of Oceanside in San Juan Capistrano. We get email, and if you've got a note that you'd like to send us, you can certainly do so. It's recoveryradiosd@gmail.com. That's recoveryradiosd@gmail.com. So is detox and treatment necessary in every case for everybody? I mean, I know that, but let's just kind of play this through for somebody out there that's new to this program. What are some of the options out there and available to people when they want to go out and get help after talking with you?
Well, I believe, detox is often necessary and treatment is often necessary, but because of financial constraints, perhaps a work schedule, a myriad of other life hindrances, I think it's essential, first and foremost, that people start to kind of assemble a recovery game plan. And so the first link in that chain is to bring this problem outside the family structure, start consulting with people that can give us good advice, direct us where we need to go. I often tell families there's always a best way to do things. And I believe that a lot of people don't seek the help that they need because they believe there's no way, for example, that I can enter a 30-day treatment center, or I don't have the financial wherewithal to enter detox, or what would my boss say if he found out I was an alcoholic or a drug addict. All of these different concerns are easily addressed if you talk to the right people. So, it's going to be a recurring theme this week, and because it is with me all of the time. Ask for the help that you need. That's really my best advice.
You're listening to 1210 AM KPRZ. This is Recovery Radio, heard every evening at 6:30. Leslie, I know that you had a question for Richard.
Well, I think that once someone has been through a treatment program and they come out, one of the biggest fears the family has is, are they going to relapse? Are they using, the family still stays in their same mode of checking, watching, looking, suspicions because of the trust factor and because of the relapse rate. What do you recommend to families when their loved one comes out as to help them stay on the right path?
Well, that's, once again, a great question, and it's really where the rubber meets the road in recovery. I always tell families it's much more important what your loved one does after treatment than even during treatment, because when you're in a sheltered environment, a treatment environment, a supported environment, and you have and an addict has the opportunity to enjoy that level of comfort that comes along with people that are at his or her side, supporting them throughout that process. Then they come home or to their living situation, whatever it's going to be, and it's really crucial at that time that we follow the recommendations of a treatment center. Certainly there are many basics 12-step meetings that are going to be required of virtually anybody that emerges from a treatment center, all the elements that go along with a 12-step program. These are all essential ingredients. You really have to do more after treatment in every avenue of your life. And, of course, families, they have a tendency to say, oh, my son or daughter has been through treatment now, and let's just forget about this awful episode and move forward with our lives. And I think Winston Churchill said it best. He said, those that forget the past are doomed to repeat it. And certainly recovery statistics support that individuals that stopped doing what they were doing that provided them true relief in terms of their addiction, they're doomed to start over again. And so the family's role in that scenario is to ensure that the aftercare plan that emerges with the individual from the treatment center is honored, that a family's role is to basically say, look, we love you and we will always support you. Now, what have you done today in relation to your recovery? And to not allow the addict or alcoholic the leeway of getting off track again. When I say allow them, a lot of people out there, I can hear them thinking, well, gosh, I've never allowed my son or daughter to do drugs or my uncle to drink. And, of course, a lot of these support elements that a family provide, if we look at them objectively, do exactly that. We might provide money or an automobile or access to different opportunities to get off track. And a family has to really honor their role in recovery, stating with love and compassion to the addict, look, we're not willing to go down this road again. And I can't overemphasize the power that a well-aligned family has in terms of enhancing the recovery possibilities for the addict. There's just a lot of different elements that go into this. Many treatment centers, quality treatment centers, all provide family support, family programs. They will cover in detail exactly what is expected of their client after he or she leaves treatment. And so this is really the best way for the family to all get on the same page, to put in additional work on the front end of this so that we're not dealing with this same problem over and over again into the future.
Yeah, I remember when I was in a treatment program, you are pretty much in your own cocoon up there. And as the addict going through the program, through a 30-day program, it is a safe environment for that person. And then at the home, the family structure part is also very important. We were talking earlier about, the relapse, obviously we were talking about now, but is it true, and I know the answer to this, but I'd like for you to kind of help explain it. Is it true that the addict really will want to have that recovery? They want recovery in their lives. I mean, how do you see that play out? I hear it all the time. I've experienced, but why don't we share with the audience what that addict wants when they really want recovery in their life? What is that defined by?
Well, I can access my personal experience, and of course, my story included a 6-year bout of homelessness, and so I had plenty of time to think about things. Mm-hmm. And I recall, in my case, I was very successful as a younger man, and of course, all of that success eroded, as I said, into 6 years of homelessness. And I can remember watching people get up and go to work, grab a cup of coffee, and thinking to myself, gosh, that would just be the greatest thing in the world, just to get up each day and to be able to go to work. And my experience says that everybody wants to be successful. I've interacted, obviously, with thousands of people with substance abuse issues. And to a man or a woman, everybody wants to be successful. And so what we try to do, people that have received the gift of recovery, is to extend that knowledge in terms of how to get there. So if I understand your question correctly, everybody desperately wants solution in their life and should be afforded the opportunity to get it. There's always a best way to accommodate that.
Well, that's interesting that you said about everybody wanting to be successful, because it's hard for people on the other side to look at that person and think that they want to be successful. I think when you're in the family side, one of the hardest things to understand is relapse. It's harder to understand relapse than it is the addiction itself. And so what do you say to a family who is dealing with relapse?
Well, this is a great quandary of each family. We brushed upon it a moment ago where we talked about the fact that the family's infinite capacity to forgive. And of course, forgiveness is divine, but we have to combine that forgiveness with what have you done lately in terms of treating your addiction. And once again, it just circles back to honoring the game plan of recovery. I'm just adamant at every opportunity in explaining to families that, look, this isn't about you giving up on your kid or not being willing to ask more of them. This is about you insisting on them doing the best they can. I always use the analogy when working with families. This is exactly like when your child had a splinter, and the child would say, no, don't take the splinter out, Mom. It's going to really hurt. And, of course, a good parent would hold that little rascal down and pull that splinter right out of the foot, knowing that was what was in the child's best interest. And addiction is really no different. The information is out there in terms of how we deal, and it's not a precise science, and I'm not immune to the struggle that's out there. There are so many variables in every family story. But on the other hand, there are elements that do work. Families got to step up. I tell families, how can you ask your son or daughter to honor recovery principles if you're not willing to do so? So this is a matter of the family understanding what has to happen and insisting that their loved one follow that path. When relapse happens in that scenario, you'll already have a prepared response based on once again, what works in terms of recovery.
The voice you're hearing is Richard Perlin, who is the founder of Family Focus Interventions and also First House Detox. Works very closely with Pacific Hills Treatment Center and Todd Cunningham's group at Recovery Options. If you have questions and want to be put in touch with Richard immediately following this program, you can call 949-973-9140. Once again, 949-973-9140. When we pick up on our program tomorrow, and Richard, you've dedicated the week again with us, and we appreciate that, we are going to talk about the intervention process. So we'll pick up on that tomorrow. But before we lose the time for today, what I wanted to do is, once again, we've started a new program for anyone seeking to get help, and that's our scholarship program. If you know someone or if you are someone that wants to begin again and get on the road to sobriety and need financial help, you can call right now to hear about our matching grant options that are made available through Pacific Hills Treatment Center. Pacific Hills has several treatment programs, and you can call 949-973-9140. And if you're a local church or business listening to this program and you want information on a structured treatment plan for anybody in your congregation or within your business, we do have this one-for-one matching program available as well. So again, that telephone number, 949-973-9140. Our email address is recoveryradiosd@gmail.com. Once again, recoveryradiosd@gmail.com. You're listening to Recovery Radio on 1210 AM KPRZ.
Addictions touch even the best Christian families right here in San Diego. This is Recovery Radio San Diego with Todd Cunningham of Pacific Hills Treatment Center and Recovery Options Network, along with John and Leslie Savage on KPRZ weekdays at 6:30. Stay with us for real-life stories, help from Christian experts, what works and what doesn't work, and local area resources for you and your family. Welcome to Recovery Radio San Diego.